where a player looks at another player and goes, wow, you did that? That's impressive. I think that matters a lot.
Impressive, challenger.
No way.
When I'm ready and not before.
I found 2 today. Well, now we have even more options for what we want to do with it. Something occultist, something raider, and something summoner are the 3 things that I think we're gonna go for. You just get that kind of shit from random shit. Say getting that kind of shit from random shit is super weird because it's weird. I like it a lot. I think they did a fantastic change with this. Honestly, I almost feel like having any gear other than like literally Awakener and Maven and like Ubered Ziri and maybe Shaper, but I don't know, Shaper's kind of like middle lane. Having anything drop from anything, even if it's like a super low chance, is just so good, you know? Like randomly dropping Guardian items is so good. Conqueror items, so good. Like, it's so good. I mean, that's practically what it is right now. But even those items, I think from the big bosses, could just drop randomly and it would be fine. I don't know. It's been feeling great to me. I've really enjoyed it. I've dropped a bunch of items where I'm just like, dude, this shit just makes me excited to play. I heard they absolutely nuked the drop gens from the original sources. I mean, Guardian items never dropped anyway. Ziz was ranting the exact opposite this morning. Yeah, it's because Ziz lives in like a different world, you know? All Ziz wants is for Path of Exile to create some like fucking Mephisto style boss that he can just run to 24 hours a day, every day for fucking years straight, and like that's it. That's all he wants. I would also like that. I get where you're coming from, you know? I guess I sometimes want that as well, but I think the game is way better off like this. I think, if anything, this adds like genuine weight to new content, because I was always very much in favor of like the best gear and the most difficult content to not be bypassable by somebody boosting you or trading you the items for it. I think having like all this shit drop everywhere, but if they release like new leagues and there's like a new Maven, new Awaken or whatever, that stuff being specific and specifically untradeable, but with a drop ratio that is genuinely accessible to the average player, I don't know. I feel like, sure, the economy is worse off. Sure, people who like specialize in things are worse off, but the game overall is just so much more exciting, you know? They're never going to do untradeable. Yeah, I don't think they're ever going to do untradeable. I mean, there's been like untradeable instances, but David Brevik actually pushed like untradeable. Like David Brevik saw the only way that Path of Exile loot continues to work is like soulbound stuff and untradeable stuff. And I agree to a certain extent. I know people don't like the idea of it, but... And I know that bosses in PoE right now are challenging enough to where the average person doesn't need that extra incentive to get there. But, yeah, I just hate that there's new content in the game and somebody can just trade for it or like get carried through it, you know? I just dislike that so much. But I mean, yeah, obviously my opinion's pretty like unrelatable considering everything, but yeah. Why? I mean, the biggest thing again is the extra incentive to actually do that content on a repeat and actually like try and push for it without just it being the idea of you like completing the game, first of all. But also second, I feel like games, it's important that games have accomplishments where a player looks at another player and goes, wow, you did that? That's impressive. I think that matters a lot. I think that was one of the strongest things, for instance, in WoW, where people would have specific gear or specific transmogs, and they would real voice, and they would, other people would look at it and they would go, you fucking did that, that's fucking sick, as opposed to even the people who did do that never being respected for it, because everybody just assumes that everybody else got carried to get it done, right? The same way in MOBAs, nobody really ever respects the skill of a average player, right? People always think that people who are on their MMR are shit because they perceive them as like they got there by chance or by a lucky streak, or they got carried and all this sort of stuff. I think unfortunately we're at a point where just you being proud of your accomplishments is rarely enough for people, as opposed to other people recognizing your accomplishments and therefore you getting like an ego boost of it. MOBA delusion. Yeah, but like that's it is a delusion, absolutely. It's really not how it works. But simultaneously, you know, we don't live in a perfect world, right? Like these things do work like that because of like the rules set for them. So again, I don't know if that would be like better for Path of Exile. I'm not saying that this is objectively how the game should go forward or anything like that. It's just the sort of thing that I would like to see. Yeah. So basically ego boost. Yeah, basically ego boost. Yeah. World's not fair. Yeah. Being average isn't an accomplishment for Hive Mind though. That's why no one looks to average people. Being average can even be challenging for some people, but no one really gives a shit. Yeah, but being average in Path of Exile is something that people give a shit about. Because being average in PoE is not simple. It's not anybody can just do it. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. Now, will people still trivialize some of those things as just like, oh, you're just a no-life. That's why you got this and I didn't. Because you're a no-life and I'm not a loser. But fuck those people. Those people shouldn't be playing video games in the first place. You know? They should be fucking building a rocket or something. You know? If they're so fucking great. Fuck them. I think that mentality can work. Having kids with my wife. Yeah, there you go. Average in PoE is like 1 to 2k hours every league. That is a lot of investment. Yeah, exactly. It's like, why are people so impressed with Exile, you know, as like a competitive player? It's because what he accomplished, he only did because he pushed it, and it's so recognizable due to the short amount of time that he accomplished it in. And I think you can have that for the rest of the game too. I'm not saying that it's always gonna work, but in a new league with new content, to me, that stuff would be important. But again, I don't know if I'd like necessarily say that that would be objectively like better for the game. Not at all. I don't know. I'm in a, as much as I interact more with the average player and the above average and below average player, more than like literally anybody else on a daily basis, right? Because people have like their personal opinion. The thing that people don't recognize about a lot of streamer opinions is that they're not looking to personally benefit. Some people are, but PoE people overall just want what's best for the game. And a lot of the feedback and a lot of the opinions that we have come from the fact that we listen to people all day, every day, right? It doesn't come from like our fucking delusional, self-involved, egotistical perspective of, you know, everybody needing to play Path of Exile 16 hours a day. No, it comes from talking to people a lot. Most people have a perspective only of like their own perspective, or like their perspective and maybe their friends' circle of perspective. But I don't know. I like to think that streamers try and look like past that. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just, maybe that's wishful thinking as well. Not actually the case. I got a Legion. The thing is, I rarely hear a streamer's opinion that's like completely fucking... I can't like understand an angle to it. I can disagree. I can think that, you know what? Oh, nice. I can think that, you know what? Like that, I don't think overall like that would be actually good. Like that would be good for some people, but not so much for others. Kind of like the server reset thing, right? For most people, I can see like their perspective when it comes to streamers. Even Quinn. Yeah, but Quinn's like not a PoE streamer. Quinn's opinions on PoE are like not opinions of a person. They're the opinions of a content creator. I'm sorry. Like you really can't tell what he thinks and what he actually believes. Like it's just impossible. Because as much as like the whole like I'm not a content creator thing is happening, you know, it's just impossible to tell. He has so many cooked takes about real life and about like issues around the world and about history and all this sort of shit that like you can just never. And I watch Quinn a lot, okay, and I've met Quinn, I've talked with Quinn, and I don't know, maybe because I'm so involved, I'm so like confused about it, I guess is a way to call it. But I cannot for the goddamn life of me tell like what the fuck is going on with that guy. I just don't know. I can't tell. And a lot of the things too that Quinn has a problem with is that he's either tired of chat or he's incapable of fully highlighting his opinion. It's like how when he talked about how he literally opened his statement on why women shouldn't dress a certain way with they shouldn't dress like that because if they do, then they should expect to be like this and that. Like that's which is like a fucking insane thing to say, right? Like that is a completely insane thing to say. But the reason why he said it was because, and he said like, oh, I'm gonna tell my my daughters to like be cautious of that, right? But the reason why he said that wasn't because he's like, oh, fucking, you know, that sounds like women deserve this, which that's absolutely not what he meant. He's not like a psycho. He meant that in a perfect world, women could dress in any way they want and they can act any way they want and they won't be harassed for it. But the unfortunate reality is that we live in a world where there's a lot of fucked up people, and due to that, they need to be cautious of that. Otherwise, they might potentially happen to run in a circumstance where it doesn't really matter if they're in the right or they're in the wrong. They're in a situation where, you know, they're in trouble that could have been avoided, right? So it's like the same thing that for whatever reason, every girlfriend I've ever had like doesn't fucking double check the lights when they're crossing the street, which is like they look at the light and they start crossing the street. They don't actually look right and left. They just cross the street. And to me, that's insane because every time I'm like, why wouldn't you check if there's a car coming? And they go, well, but the light is green. And it's like, yeah, but if a car rams into you, you're going to be in trouble. And they're like, yeah, but it's going to be his fault. Like, yeah, sure, but you're going to be the one without legs for the rest of your life. Like, what does it matter whose fault it is? You know? And it's like, yeah, in a perfect world, that should never happen. But in the reality that we live in, like that kind of thing will happen unless you are extra cautious about it. But that was kind of like Quinn's point in that, you know, unfortunately, because of fucked up men, women have to be like conscious about it. But the way he opened that literally sounded like, well, what you guys heard. And it's like, man, how many of his nuanced takes does he not elaborate on enough to truly like highlight his perspective? A lot, probably. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say that a lot, but yeah. Only sounds bad because you expect it to be bad.
This way.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's another thing, right? The people assume the worst in what other people say. But again, as a content creator, okay, if I say something and the 95% of chat recognizes, you know, who I am and knows that I would never do something like that, that's not the reality. It's the same reason. Okay, honestly, I'll say it. It's the same reason why I stopped using the word nagging. I used to say that guy is a nagger, as in he nags. And I no longer say it because people who are on my stream would hear that and they would go, oh, it's a person that nags. But then there would be threads on live stream fails about me, how I'm fucking baiting the N-word. And it's like, bro, a lot of people would step in and they'd be like, listen, this isn't the sort of person that would ever do something like that. You know, he just never would have a behavior pattern of that. But unfortunately, as a content creator, I run into the issue of, well, yeah, of course, I'm not that sort of person. I would never do anything like it. It doesn't even fucking come to my mind. That's why I use those sort of words so freely, because like that absolutely doesn't exist in my vocabulary ever. But it doesn't matter to other people, right? Like it just literally doesn't matter to other people. So unfortunately, in a perfect world, I should be able to do it, but it's not a perfect world, and I have to deal with people who fucking read LSF and are just, you know, absolute rhubarbs. And therefore, yeah, I don't say that anymore. I just can't. And it fucking sucks, bro. It sucks. Because yeah, at the end of the day, the end thing is like, yeah, just lol, cancel him. He said a thing. So what if it was completely unrelated? Fuck that guy. He's like doing this and that.
Not before.
They'll never like look into the context of the situation or like who I am as a person or anything. You know, people just don't give a fuck. I have people that just read the title of an article and declare a strong opinion rather than reading the article. I mean, it reminds me of people who have a strong opinion on anything. Everybody's fucking absolute ape. And yet everybody has like a massively powerful opinion about every subject ever, even though they have no involvement. And most of the time they're dealing with people who have been in that field for 10 plus years. And yet they're going to be like, oh, I just so happen to be a little bit of a scientist myself, you see.